All right. Well, if it sounds like I'm out of breath, you were right. I'm out of breath. I literally just ran from my car to do this podcast with Coach. Welcome to episode 11 of the Harold Katz podcast. O-Ring Glickman alongside Akiva Poppers and the Godfather himself, Coach. Sarachek just wrapped up about 3 days ago with the Valley Torah Wolfpack going back to back with the Wolfpack. Lame dad joke, I know. Coach, first off, a fun tournament. We hope you traveled back safely. How's it been since the tournament ended? Did you finally get some well-deserved rest?
Well, the answer to your question is no. I really haven't gotten any rest, so I'm kind of very tired. Before I go on, I just wanted to thank those guys over at Bottom for allowing us the platform to be on their platform, opportunity to be on their platform, and allowing us to kind of grow the show somewhat. Now that we've kind of gone a little independent and are very grateful and are hoping to continue that relationship, but more as a side-by-side instead of flying under someone else's banner, flying under our own. Now, it could be that the three of us are the only three people who are going to hear or watch this podcast until we can get this public. But that's the first thing I wanted to do. I didn't want to forget to do that. The answer to your question is fun weekend for our guys. Probably one that's going to stay with me for a while, because I don't know about anybody else. I mean, I'm sure Leor and Zach are our two guests who are coming on tonight. I'm sure they'll be able to expand on this a little bit, not necessarily from this year, but from other years. I'm the kind of guy, we came to win on Thursday night. Like, we were fixing to beat SAR. That's what we were kind of going there to do. I thought we were well prepared. As were they, I think. But, there's 4 minutes to go. It's in a 1-point game. And I just think, it's a missed opportunity. And then once, we win Friday, and then it's Berman Saturday night. I think there are a couple issues with that. Besides the fact that our guys are really tight with those guys, and I enjoy the coaching staff very much, and I enjoy the kids. They're fun to be around, and our kids spend Shabbos with them, and as well as other guys. But we know each other, and that may have been part of the problem, is that we know each other, and they just decided, well, we're going to give you this guy, this guy, this guy. We're just not going to give you John. And they do. They've done a great job the last 2 times we played him of taking John away. I think first time we played him, John had somewhere near 30. And then they were just like, well, we're not doing that again. So they kind of made that decision. And then once you lose Saturday night, to me, I don't care where we finish. It doesn't bother me. People want to say whatever they can. We came to beat SAR. That's what we were trying to do. And then take on Frisch and then see what we could do after that. But that was our intent. I've said that from the beginning. We got beat. We tried to make the best of it. I think we played probably one good quarter the rest of that tournament. I think that's true. We played the next 16 quarters. We played one good quarter.
Yeah.
And the great thing for us is Shabbos comes, and it's Shabbos, and Shabbos is the best day of the week.
It's as if you're psychic, because I was just going to pivot to a lot of the good that this tournament brings. I think a lot of fans are wondering, what are so many of the positive things that happened throughout this weekend, like Shabbos, for example? And not that we're critiquing the tournament in any way. We think the admissions department does wonderful things, but I would love to hear your thoughts on what can be done to make the tournament better in some senses.
I personally think 24 is a lot. And the reason I think 24 is a lot is only for this reason. I mean, So Saturday night when you're playing at 11 o'clock at night, if you lose, you're playing 8:30 in the morning. So you earned that spot. We earned that spot. The bottom line was we didn't get to sleep till 1:30. We got up at 6 to Dolphin at 6:30 and to make sure we were at YU on time. So you're really, it's the second year in a row we're dealing with 3 or 4 hours of sleep. And then you got to play the next day and you just played at night. So I think because of the 24 format, that's kind of what happens. So you either extend it maybe for another evening on Wednesday night, or you figure out such a way where I don't know if there's a way to do it or not. I know they want to expand it as much as possible, and I get that and appreciate it. And I'm glad because we were included in that, and I'm always appreciative of that. But I think there's, that's the one thing that's sort of, and I say that knowing that we earned that by our lack of success. So it's just something. But the fact is that you could earn that and play at 9:30 or 10:30, or 11 o'clock. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be crack of dawn before anybody wakes up. So, right. That being said, trying to think back. I think your kids have an opportunity to talk to anybody they want. They have an opportunity to watch the games they want. They have an opportunity to spend time with whoever they want. So that's a good thing. I think the tournament keeps you busy. But the thing I realized about the tournament is that everything just kind of moves, and before you know it, it's 11:30 Friday night, and you're going like, well, when did this happen? Or 4:30 Friday afternoon, and Shabbos afternoon, you're like, what happened?
Right, and this is considered the long Shabbos now. Yeah,
so I think that's a good thing, which means that the programming's good and the meals are good and they're not dragged out. I just think it's a well-run tournament, and the reason I would go back if invited is because it's a well-run tournament. If it was disorganized and, there's always hiccups and everything you got going on. You don't have this badge, or this room's the wrong room, or, any tournament you go to, that's going to happen. But as a whole, it's a really well-run tournament. Just some of the logistics, last year being a little too far away. And I know that was a rush thing because it was after COVID. But this year, I thought the hotel was in a good spot. Not a fan of hotel food anyway, or Salvatore food anyway. But this, generic pea pebbles or whatever they call it,
yeah,
stony pie. Who knows what they're called? But I'm just glad there's no generic bananas or apples and stuff like that.
So apparently the questions are pouring in, and I'm definitely going to get them. I don't want to disregard our viewers in any way, but I do want to, since I'm moderator for now until our guests come on, I do have one question that I really want to ask you. Sure. You built a program from the ground up, and all these seniors who played in this tournament, they were with this program since its inception. Right. I remember Donnie Carter making a comment in a post-game huddle, like, guys, we didn't have an identity, and like now the whole Jewish world knows who we are. It had to be very emotional for these guys when it ended. How did you tell them that wherever they go afterwards, like, all these memories will last with them forever, even though the basketball is over?
Right. Well, we actually had a team dinner yesterday, which was more public for families and stuff like that. The Rosen family sponsors that every year, and it was happened to be the last year because John is graduating. But hopefully somebody else does it in a year from now. But I think our messaging has never been about basketball. And I think that's the ticket. If you make it about winning and losing, I think you cheat your players because you have an opportunity to change their life a little bit. So I kind of address it from that standpoint. I mean, I catch a lot of grief because I'm very vocal with my guys, and I'm kind of a little loud sometimes, and I can be abrasive, and I get straight to the point. And so people are like, I'm kind of a dinosaur in coaching, so people are kind of like giving me grief about that. I don't care. So they could give me grief all they want. It doesn't matter. And the reason is this: I have a relationship with Donnie Carter like that. If I didn't have a relationship with Donnie Carter, I don't feel like I have the right to do that to him.
Correct.
But we have a relationship where, like, he tells that to his teammates. He does that, if he has to get, he makes that point to his teammates. And as we are really all about the truth. Like, we're going to get to brutal truth. And so I have a relationship with my players. I always tell them, don't worry about if I'm yelling at you. Worry about if I'm not.
Right.
If I'm not yelling at you, I don't care if you're here or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
So because of that, I think we have this relationship. And with these guys, it's been 4 years. There were 9 of them, of which 7 of them survived, so to speak. One of them was really special, and whatever happened, he was like shot out of a cannon on every loose ball. He's a great defender. He was great in the open floor. He'd helped us a lot. This tournament, the other tournament. He just, he did other things. So we miss him. Spoke about him last night a little bit. But, I address each player in the locker room after our Sunday game, because I was thinking we're going to go home right after Monday anyway. And our players, which I do all the time in their senior year, I let them address each other and the team. And it was actually really emotional, which means that they cared. And because they cared, that's what made it such a special year, regardless if you win or lose.
Yeah. Even someone like myself, who I was only, my first YMC game was actually last year's tournament too, but this year, but as someone who was not with the team for the entire ride, physically in person, even as a spectator in the crowd, you felt those emotions. Yeah.
It's one thing we try to do when you're brutally honest, I mean, you're going to get that. And brutal honesty is kind of how we go about our business. I don't think people get, when there's only like 30 kids, 29 kids, you get to know everybody right quick. And I don't think they understand just, I would argue that not everybody, but I'd say the majority of the teams that came to the tournament probably had as many kids at tryouts as we have in our student body.
Wow.
So just wrap your head around that, and then wrap your head around it's a 1-point game with 4 minutes to go against
against the eventual finalist of Sarachek.
Yeah, against a blue blood. By the way, am I wrong that neither Frisch nor Shalhevet had a lead against SAR?
That's correct. Pop, we got the thumbs up from Poppers.
And is it true that Valley Torah didn't have the lead till the third quarter?
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a 1-0 lead shooting free throws, but it was very.
What I'm saying is, we probably had the lead longer against them longer.
Correct. Exactly. And
that's a testament to our preparation, our work, their preparation, and their work, because they played really well. I think we did stuff to them. The frustrating thing for me was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they hit 2 free throws in the half court in the entire first half, not including the shot he makes with 8 seconds, with no time left on the clock, that they kind of rush up the floor. But when I watched the film back on Tuesday, and on Monday, albeit half dead, like I was in a stupor. Right. But when I watched it back, I watched the first 3 quarters. I really couldn't get through the rest of it because I was too tired.
Yeah,
I was a little pissed because our half court defense was pretty good, and we'd only given up the 2 free throws early, their first 2 points. We turned the ball over against the press twice, one of which led to a bucket. They got, it's eight. Here's the ball game to me. It's 18-6. We get the first possession of the second quarter. Donnie Carter gets a shot block, picks up the rebound on it, and hits Yaakov Meister with a basket cut. He kicks the layup, and they get a run out on the layup. And I think instead of being 20-6, and them guys trying to hold on here a little bit, it's now 18-8. Then we get another run out on a bad shot, and then we miss a layup, and they get another run out. So, those are the possessions that will stick with me. The one 49-48, we take the lead, and then
right, Donnie Carter gets the roll on the three, and then
and then we get a block instead of a charge. I think if you look at it again, I do think Dio is there before the kid takes off, and that's his fifth foul. Then we have the ball. Sanders was a great player, by the way. I love him.
Yeah.
He's got 4 fouls. He's got 5 fouls now with less than 4 to go. Our ball, 1-point lead. We got this howitzer in our back pocket in John Rose. And so it's kind of like I felt pretty good. Even then, when Avi Friedman goes to line down 8, he makes both free throws. 40 seconds ago, we're a 6-point deficit with John. I don't know. I kind of like my chances if we can extend this game a little bit. So, they're not great. It's not ideal. But if we can kind of stretch it out on the free throw line and get John some shots the way he was shooting the basketball that night, but it's part of basketball, and it happens. And look, it happened to us with Frisch, where we blew that big lead at Satrin. And it took us 6 games to recover, and we just didn't have 6 games to recover. Our guys are, but because we are who we are. We're just so invested in this moment, and we were invested in SAR, and on our way to Frisch, we wanted to play Frisch again or Berman in that scenario. But as it was, we knew Frisch had won. So we really wanted them in the worst way to just play them again because we thought we could play them with them. We give them a run. I don't know if, we'd see what happens, but that was our thought process. People think, I'm not coming there to play checkers. I'm coming there to play chess. And that's what I do. People don't like my approach, but I don't really care.
So I want to thank Poppers for being on top of the chat. Thank you. I should remind people to subscribe that we're on a new channel. Coach, when we get to some of these questions, you could go with them, like a lightning round, however way you want to approach it. This one should be pretty quick and could be answered in probably one word. Question for Coach from a live viewer. Did you ever think about subbing Poppers in?
Sunday.
Against RASG.
We had no points on the board. I'm thinking, how could this hurt? And to be honest, even with the beard, he looks prepubescent. So, he looks like he's 12 and he's got the legs of geriatric. So I'm just thinking, who's going to stop him from coming in the game? So yes, on Sunday morning, I thought about it. I may have even said something to him. Pop, you want to play? Something like that. On Monday and Tuesday when we were, on Sunday, and then on Monday morning when John was sick and Isaac was sick, and Zachy's playing with a torn patella, and why not? So the answer to your question, it did cross my mind.
Yeah, Mel is probably the only ref who knows that Poppers is part of the coaching staff, but with any other ref, it probably would have flown.
Yeah, it could have worked.
Shout out to Mel. I think there were a couple other questions. If you don't mind, though, this was a beauty for me throughout the weekend. Obviously, having lunch with you was a thrill, but it's what happened after the lunch. Orchaim, a team that you defeated on Friday, they were in the restaurant that we were having lunch at with your son Ellie. And they were very friendly. Maybe Canadians are more friendly than Americans. I don't know. But they asked you, listen, we heard you're a semi-professional coach. Do you have any tips to share with us? And we'd love to hear about that story. I think it's what makes competition so beautiful. And I think that's what makes the weekend so beautiful.
I was kind of like, I'm doing this for 40 years. If I'm semi-professional now, I need to get a new job. They were very kind, and they did ask my opinion of some of the things that were going on. I told them what we did to them when we saw what they were doing to us. I told them the adjustments we made. I told them what I thought they could do to get better. I think, like most teams in that tournament, they dribble too much. And you're susceptible to the charge, of which I think over the first 2 days, I think we had 15 of them. And when you go back and look, they were all legitimate. We just got run over, and our guys are willing to do it. So they were very generous with their compliments and very nice. And I think your perspective is probably more, you probably have better perspective on it than I do, because I'm inside the bubble and you're outside looking in. So it was, it's not, I would, there's been other times when that's happened to us, but that was a pretty cool story. And they were really nice, and they were sincere. Your take on it is you're probably one to talk about it.
I think it's just amazing. Like, just less than an hour ago, you guys were battling on the court. And then, I think to compare and contrast the things that we're seeing that's happening in the Yeshiva League, postings on social media, insulting a person on the losing team after a championship game. And
that's not what you saw. Yeah.
And this was the complete opposite of that.
Right. And that's not what you saw. Our players wouldn't do something like that. And I just don't tolerate it. And they were exactly the opposite of that. They were very effusive in their praise of our guys. And they were kind of like, you got up on us right quick. We were not prepared. After the first quarter, we had the lead. And then I think in 3 minutes we were up 15 or whatever, and that kind of took them by surprise a little bit. So, but they were, and they continued that the whole weekend in the hotel. Some of the other kids asked me some questions, and I tried to help them. I think that's kind of what this tournament is for. Like, as much as we're against each other, we're all one people. And I think that's Friday night davening, to me, was kind of cool, because everybody, there were two different, because of size, they had to put us in two different minyanim, and the one that I was in was just great. Very, very loud and very interactive, and it was great. And I was reminded of why we're all at this tournament together. It's just, we're very small people, and for us to be doing some of the things we do, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So we have more questions. So we know that you go into this tournament as a coach, but you didn't always, there were a couple of years where you came as a father, and you came, simply just as a fan to watch the competition. So you think there was ever a time where you went to this tournament and you saw a player that he didn't necessarily stand out, wasn't the most polished of players, but you saw that he had that potential to get to the next level? You don't have to single out any players, but do you think you saw some examples from this past weekend of players who weren't necessarily the best, but you could see them getting there down the road?
There's a couple, to be honest. It's not a lot. There's not a lot. And
because I think a lot of people think about someone like an Effie Freundlich, never captured the Sarachek headlines, but over time, he's now playing for the YU Max.
Yeah, look, I think you have in out-of-town schools, we have to play freshmen and sophomores. We have to do that. other schools don't have, like in New York, you don't have to do that freshman, sophomore because of the size of the school. You can play JV and you can hibernate a couple of them, right? We out of town, you take your best players and play. Now, I would do the same thing in town, by the way, in New York and California. I'd play my freshmen and sophomores. I don't care. I want my best players to play. And I don't want them wallowing on some bench just because there's some unwritten rule that 10th graders can't play varsity. Nonsense. So, I mean, I've recruited in other situations, like I said before a couple of weeks ago, where we've gone to watch one player and we found ourselves recruiting his teammate. And I think it's the same thing here. The thing about Effie was he was out of town. He was a young kid. You know, COVID really kind of snatched him too. So you didn't really get to see him in his glory kind of thing, or when he was best. And I think he grew a lot when he was in Israel, and his game grew a lot over the summer before he went to Israel and in Israel. So and he was there for a year and a half. So are there kids? I mean, there might be a couple, but there's not a lot of them. You know what I mean? So I just think it's a.
Yeah. Coach, I'm getting word in my ear that the defending two-time champion, Leor Schwartzberg of the Valley Torah Wolfpack, is on the podcast.
Awesome.
Coach Schwartzberg, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Long time no see.
Yeah,
Been about 2 weeks.
hey, Lior, I wanted to have you back because I wanted to go back and let's talk about, if anything we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, like, for coaches who are listening. Let's go back to, we got 7 weeks before we play, right? Is that what it was? 7 or 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So what'd you do? We talked about what we did, and I mean, it worked out for you, but come Thursday, I wasn't so sure from our conversation on Thursday it was the best idea. But what'd you do to prepare, and what'd you take away from our previous conversation, and how you prepared for that? We'll get to the tournament in a minute.
Well, like we spoke last time, we basically we set up scrimmages. Right? We set up scrimmages, and there was always the fear of injury, which we also dealt with because of those scrimmages. But you can't go 6-7 weeks without playing other teams.
Right.
Just like we talked about last time, you need to play somebody besides yourselves. You need to, get in that spirit of competition together against another team, not against each other. So, yeah, we went out and we found some high schools that wanted to play. We found some club teams that wanted to play. We got creative with where we played. And the speed at which we played against, just to make sure that we are the best we can. And along the way, we had some injuries as well that could have curtailed everything, but lucky enough that, Sarachek started late enough for us.
Did you kick yourself in the pants? Like, were you fixing to do it before we spoke? Were you fixing the scrimmage?
We were already looking at it. I think it kind of reaffirmed that this is what we need to do.
Right.
And I think we played maybe that last week and a half or so. I mean, we played a couple teams.
Right. So Noam gets hurt and Johnny gets hurt. And I'm sitting here going, boy, I'm an idiot. Like, I probably shouldn't have encouraged it. I probably shouldn't have encouraged it. But, if they played hard, that's pretty good effort.
Right. They definitely were not 100%.
Yeah.
We had to get creative with what we had to do to get ready.
Right. So let's go back. So then Thursday, when you get to New York, to New Jersey, you get a gym, right?
Well, we got in Wednesday and we had a gym, but our flight was about 6 hours delayed.
Right.
So the boys slept at LAX, find accommodations by JetBlue. And we ended up just going, we landed late. Everything was behind. And the gym that we had rented that night, we weren't going to be able to make it. And we had a player on our team that got a contact for a rabbi of a yeshiva in Muncie where we were at the time. And literally within 2 hours of not knowing what we're doing, we were able to find a school that was able to accommodate our time frame, and it was in Muncie. We're already going to Muncie. That was our plan originally, to go to Muncie. And we were able to practice that night, but it was a small gym. It was like a half court, full court.
Right.
So we didn't really do what I had envisioned doing. We had to kind of change the script a little bit and work more on shots than conditioning. But then we went out to the hotel afterwards. We checked in, and that was basically our first night. We probably slept more hours in the airport than we did in the hotel that night.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So wait, but you don't play till you were after us, so you don't play.
Right. The latest of the latest game, which I don't know if that was to our advantage or not. I think that day it was, but it's tough to play that 8:30 and then get the 2:00 the next day.
Yeah, it is. And let me ask you, is it 5:30 in your body, or are you already at 8:30, or are you so messed up from the day before that it's
we slept in the airport. We don't know what time it was at that point. Right. I don't think we had a local time in our circadian rhythm.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying, your body clock. But your body clock, I think, is messed up anyway from sleep.
I don't think anybody on our team slept more than like 4 or 5 consecutive hours and 2 straight nights at that point.
Right. So, but you do go to shoot around. You do have a shoot around at Better Gym on Thursday, right?
Thursday, yeah, we found I think Thursday was just a local school out in Teaneck. I know a lot of teams went to the other yeshivas that were in the event. We went another round.
Yeah, as did we. But I I think where we went, you went Friday, right?
We went Sunday.
Sunday, right. So when you go to that, are you walking through? What are you doing? Like, are you walking through?
So we try to split it about 50-50. 50% walkthrough, 50% shots.
Right.
But in typical fashion, I go over time. So we end up probably 70% walkthrough, 30% shots.
And you're going from how long did you plan on being there, and how long were you?
An hour.
Yeah. And so
hour max.
For basically 40 minutes and walk.
Yeah. And ironically, almost every day that we walk through something, that thing never happened in the game.
Well, but I mean,
sometimes, coaches try to overthink it. We're like, hey, this is what the other coach is going to do. We're ready for it. And it never happened.
Well, I think it does happen on Monday. Like, you're thinking man-to-man, and you get a zone right away, right?
Right.
I see the first few minutes. So sometimes I believe that happened to us with the same squad, and I believe I told you, be prepared for that, because, the rumor is it's just going to be man-to-man, and sometimes, I think with us it was 8-0, so that idea kind of went out the window at 8-0,
Yeah, we went the other direction.
Yeah, right. So whether he would have stayed in it like he did with you, you will never know. But I never buy into that. Like, if you're playing me, it's man to man. Like, you're not gonna. But like, if you're playing, like, other people aren't as stubborn as I am. So, yourself included. So my thinking was I was going to see something, either junk or hanging a guy in the paint, against our movement or whatever. It's just something. And it came out zone, obviously. But before we get there, did you play TABC earlier in the year in Los Angeles?
No, we didn't. No. We, ironically, the only Yeshiva League team we played all year was SAR.
In Los Angeles twice.
We played them twice in Los Angeles and once in New York, yeah.
Right. So you're prepared for them you didn't play them a year before either, because you weren't in that tournament, right?
Yeah. I don't think, we played TABC the year before, but not SCR.
Right. So are you familiar with the X and O's of it when you get in there?
A lot of what we thought we were going to use was based on what we saw in the first 2 games we played with them, right? Which was man-to-man.
I'm not talking about SAR first. I'm talking about your first game with
TABC. But TABC this year is completely different than last year.
Right. There's one that's the same. But I'm saying, are you, from an X and O standpoint, can you look at that and say, well, here's what the guy usually does. So in other words, if you played me, where I'm gonna run. It's not complicated. I'm just gonna run the same stuff. It's not.
Right.
you got 1,000 things going on. I don't. I'm not that smart. So I have like one defense, one offense, and you beat us, right? Here's different. Like here, can you rely on TABC from years past and say, well, we're going to see man, we're going to see this movement or that action. Can you rely on that?
I think with them, that wasn't as big of a deal. I think we more focused on what we were going to do to stop Lulu.
Right.
It's a little different than past years where last year we played them as completely a different, style. I think that we didn't really think about how will they guard us.
Right.
We thought that we'd be able to adapt in that game, whatever they threw at us. I was more concerned with how we can stop their main scoring options.
Right.
And figured if I can do that, I think that we have a good probability. And I think they came out in a diamond and one, if I remember. And we've seen that, right? So we kind of knew what to do, but I wasn't too worried about it. Because if you're going to take away one of our options, we're going to have others.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that they don't keep up the scoring with us more than the other way around.
Right. And that was sort of, I didn't get to watch the whole thing. That was sort of over right quick, right?
They actually were up early on.
Yeah, it was a game at
8 or something like that.
It was a game through one, and then
we tried to go full court press 2-2-1 as high as possible. Try to speed them up. That court is hard to full court press on unless you have the size that's necessary for that. They were able to pick it apart, and then we just scaled it back a little bit till we found something that was working. And from the point they were up 12-8, and I think we ended up winning by about 20 points. I think they ended up with 39 points or 36 points.
So who do you play Friday?
We played Katz, which in typical fashion, I'm getting ready for Ida Crown, right? The higher seed. You figure out, they had a good year without their best player. They're probably better than I even think they are. So I was more lined up for Ida Crown, and they're 1-3-1, which was interesting. So Ida Crown ran a 1-3-1, so we prepared for that in Los Angeles.
Right.
But they lose, and Katz plays us, and I've never seen Katz play 1-3-1, and they came out in a 1-3-1. So it was lined up.
Luck of being the champ. And how long did they stay in it?
I don't remember exactly how long they did. I think the biggest thing is very often they weren't able to set in it. The halftime score was like 37-32 or something like that. It was a high-paced game. Right. You're not setting in your defense. You're just playing basketball at that point.
But they have decent size too for you.
They have size. They have strength. They have skill. I just think, in the third quarter, we just start hitting shots.
Do you do something at halftime that changes anything, or you're just kind of like, let's just run our stuff?
We're just trying to keep the pace as high as possible.
A lot of fans think, Coach Boy, he must have said something, And sometimes it's just, hey, let's just do what we're supposed to do, fellas.
Right.
Is that pretty much what that was?
Yeah. And look, we hit like 5 or 6 threes in the third quarter. That's going to open up a lead.
Right.
That's definitely going to open up a lead.
So do you think you caught a break with that one, or you think you kind of got the short end on that one?
I don't know.
With them,
it's interesting because we played no Yeshiva League teams until the championship, and the other side of the bracket was all Yeshiva League teams in Shalhevet.
Right. So
it's almost like, they kept the Yeshiva League on one side of the bracket and the rest of us, besides North Shore, on the other side of the bracket. So it's, I don't think there's any side of the stick that we got there. We got who we got because they were the better team the round before. Yeah. And they won the game and they deserve to be there.
Yeah. Okay. So then Sunday is
Eula.
All right. Yeah. So you're surprised that was that no, that wasn't Eula Shalhevet yet. They beat somebody, right?
Who they beat North Shore.
They beat North Shore. That surprised you a little bit?
Nope. If you ask me, my guys, I said Eula will beat North Shore. I said specifically they can hit shots. I think that Eula was a very good team this year. They had a lot of guys that can play basketball, and I think they were deeper than North Shore. I think they had 8 guys that can play at any time, and especially if they're hitting shots, is North Shore going to come out of their zone? Obviously, it was much closer than I thought it was going to be, but I wasn't surprised at all.
You think that one of them kids getting hurt makes a difference, or you don't? You think?
Look, North Shore has a very good starting lineup.
Right.
Right. And they're used to playing with that starting lineup, significant amount of minutes.
Right. And the depth. Yeah.
That injury is going to change it.
Right.
Right. If you're used to playing 5 guys and now you got to play 6, or you play 6 and now you got to play 7, there's going to be drop off. Right. That guy was a starter for a reason. And he was a good player, too. He wasn't just a starter. He was a good player.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good squad. So you get Eula, and you're expecting junk out of Eula, though, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did they junk you straight up?
No. They did what they do, and they do it very well.
And
but they did mostly their 3-2 defense.
Did they triangle you at all?
Not much.
They did.
And then at halftime, I came in and said, guys, they're going to come out in the junk. We watched our Shell have a game. They started with a 3-2, aggressive, like they did with us. And they came out with some junk stuff in the second half. So I felt like, okay, guys, just be ready for this or that and this. And they didn't.
They didn't junk you.
Because it was working for them. So I guess they didn't need to change it.
Could 20, I don't want to say it, 22, 23 years ago, Monty's coaching at Valley Torah, right? And I'm playing him. And he triangles into our kid. When I say he triangles into the kid.
Yeah.
Like he just put 2 on the kid. So then when the ball got to the top, there's like 3 guys on the kid, So the junk stuff and what he seems to go a little hand in hand. I've told him that before.
Was that the 90 to 88 final score?
90, 88. Yeah, that was.
So that's a record break. So I guess the triangle and 2 on one guy didn't really work on him.
Well, it did. Well, he had 53 that night. So I told Monty, it's time to go back to the drawing board on the 53. But he had 53, and we kind of threw that tournament. Like, is that the highest scoring game in this tournament? He told me that somebody had told him up to that point it was the best game ever played in that gym. Well, I said, you would say that. I didn't feel that way when it was over.
Right. I mean, that was definitely the highest scoring game probably Sarachek's ever seen.
Yeah, but that was the pace of the game. Like, it was never one of these things like all of a sudden we just decided to score. It was, the entire day was like that. I believe the guy who owned that company, Halo, Halo, I think it was called, used to be in all the dugouts in the major leagues. He was with Valley Torah. He's a supporter of Valley Torah. Forgot his name. He was there that year, and he approached me a few times about something. And Halo, some people may have pictures of it or remember it. It was like if you looked at Major League Dugout, it was the same. Anyway. So then now it's SAR on. So you beat Valley, you beat Eula, and now it's SAR on Sunday. So what do you do to prepare for SAR?
Our staff had a big discussion. I thought they'd come out in zone. One of my assistants thought that they'd come out of main because that's what they do. I thought they'd go out in zone because Eula went 3-2 the night before and did a very good job defensively on us. So we kind of were ready for both. And they came out of zone. They hit every shot. We couldn't, throw a pea in the ocean. So it was 16-6, and we called a timeout. And we just said, don't worry about it. The shots will eventually fall. Just here's what we're looking for. Don't forget. We talked about where the weaknesses were in their zone. We looked a little bit about their zone. I think, did they 3-2 you? I forgot who in the tournament they 3-it. No, it was Frisch.
Yeah, they went 2-3 on us.
It was Frisch. So we saw that game, and they're very good in terms of physicality and their man-to-man. They're not a zone team, right? That's not in their DNA. Most of their games are man-to-man. Right. So when they played Frisch zone, I understood why, right? They wanted to slow down Frisch's 2 guys, and I'm looking at them and thinking they're probably going to try to do the same with our 2 guys, right? They're probably sitting there thinking, how do we mess stuff up and take them out? What worked in the tournament against them? And so that's why I thought, but we noticed with the Frisch game that when the ball got swung, their opposite guy didn't really drop down much. And if there was a guy in the middle, their back guy would come up. So we knew the whole weak side bottom was going to be wide open. And we just, we ran a couple sets to get the ball there. So we knew eventually we're going to get what we want. We just had to regroup and remember, hey, we're trying to look for that area of the zone specifically.
Right. Did you try screening that also at all?
Yes, we screened that too. We threw, I think, 2 or 3. It's a lob, but it's not really a lob because nobody's dunking it on the weak side.
Right.
But we couple of times screened that backside. And actually on film, or if you saw it, one time we tried to screen and my guy went there knowing where to screen, but they never dropped the guy back. So he actually was looking around thinking like, who do I screen? He found another body to screen that was irrelevant to the play.
Right.
And we just felt in their zone, that's kind of what we wanted to expose, kind of the opposite side block and see if we can get it there to get him out of their zone.
What's the score when he changes back to man-to-man?
I don't remember.
And did that surprise you?
It did not surprise me, but they manned us in Globerman.
Right.
We specifically had less than a handful of calls for man against them because we looked at those games and we saw, hey, here is, the Rolodex of plays that is going to work against our man.
Right.
And the moment that we recognized they went man, we went a couple, backdoor cuts, couple slips against their man because they try to out physical you. They're pretty physical as a team. And then when we realized that they adjusted to kind of take away the back door, we started screening the weak side to just try to get our shooters a couple wide open threes. I think they end up going back into the zone.
Did they?
Yeah.
I was kind of fixated on you at some point, like on what you guys were doing, simply because it was just really all execution. And it wasn't something like this was an accidental look, or it was all everything you were trying to do through execution, you got.
Yeah, it was very scripted, definitely scripted.
That's what it looked like to me. And it's almost like if you had your druthers, I would just run this play against this all the time, or this play against these 3 things. And it's almost like every time you did it in the second half, you got what you wanted.
I think against their man, we just ran 2 or 3 sets.
Right. So that backdoor thing is kind of, are you happy you don't run it at halftime in the first half?
Well, they didn't man.
Right. Or they have the opportunity.
We did try to backdoor the zone. Because again, that opposite, the 2-3, the opposite guy matches up with the middle and we're in a 2-1-2.
Sure.
So the moment we skipped it, we knew that guy would pick him up and we wanted to get it high, low, and then backdoor. Right. And we had some frustration getting it. It was there. We saw it was there. We just weren't getting it. And that was a part of talking during timeouts and halftime. Like, it's there. Trust that it's there. Just put it there and it's going to be there. And it worked. And we also had to adjust. We went to zone. Right. And I don't know how many games you saw us play this year, but you probably didn't see a lot of zone.
Not a lot of zone, but I've seen it.
But it was also a point of discussion because when you look at SCR, all their losses outside of us and Globerman were against a team that zoned them. So there's something to it.
Well, I mean, to be fair to them, they don't see a lot of man-to-man anyway. So the odds on a man-to-man team, of which they probably saw 1 all year, I mean, you're really pointing your finger at us because we manned them up. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
They were making shots, right? They against our man, they're just getting the shots they wanted. Sometimes they were getting the shots that we wanted, and it was going in. So we realized we just had to do something different, and we zoned, and we stayed in the zone, and we stayed in the zone, and we stayed in the zone.
You stayed in the zone the whole second half too?
Second quarter and second half. We mixed up some man in there.
There were a couple possessions where you went man and they drove in.
Yes, we wanted to make sure that we don't allow them to get rhythm if we felt like they're maybe close to getting that. You get that feeling like they may be getting something. So we went back and forth a couple times. But yeah, we decided to go zone.
I think you caught a couple charges in your man stuff too. Like when you went man, that's when you caught a couple of charges. I think they thought you might have been doing something else, and here a man slides over and man to man. So that actually, and then I remember one time where no one takes a charge, and the next possession you're zoning up.
Right.
And I think it was the next possession you got another one, and man, I think so. I was a little tired on Monday, so by the time
Me too.
yeah, right. So
no, he took 3 charges.
Right.
He took 3 charges.
All stuff that you had to know was coming.
Right.
Like that just sort of, to me, the surprising thing for me is that no teams in New York were doing that to him. Like we took 7 or something, or 8 or something.
I think we took 5, maybe 4 were called in that game.
Right. My opinion, we should have got that one at 49-48, but that's me, because then now it's 51-49 instead of 49-48, 5th foul on Shanzer, and it's our ball. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the referee told me he had come in when Shanzer had left the ground. If that's the reason he doesn't call it, he's mistaken, because it didn't happen that way. Shanzer was still on the ground before he went up in the air. We had taken the charge. So, but that's, you gave me 7 of them. I can't complain about it.
Right.
I just want to know the reason why we didn't get it, because I am a teacher and I have to teach it the right way. So that's sort of so now it's over, and is relief what's the deal on it? You're relieved on it?
Yeah. Look, I think the guys,
Was it better that you weren't the number 1 seed because of that?
We weren't that. Well, first of all, the number 1 seed beat us, so they should be the number 1 seed. But last year we were also the 2 seed, right? And so
is there less pressure in that situation?
I think that I think the biggest thing is last year it was just finally getting it done, right? And there was that release of like, okay, finally, the monkey's off our back. I think this year we came in knowing we had a chance, and we just thought that our style of play would fare well in the tournament, especially as you get later in the later rounds. Just wearing teams out that are already tired, in terms of the speed of the game. But I think that the second time around this past year was we just wanted to play our game, and there wasn't the pressure of winning it. I think we sometimes just didn't want to lose it. Right. And, and I think that the early, our first couple of games, we came out, hey, we're not going to lose this.
Survive in advance.
Right.
Survive in advance. And
SAR punched us in the mouth, and we had to do something different. They were ready for us. They clearly had a great game plan. Coffee does a great job of it there, and they have a lot of talent too.
Yeah.
Right. They got shooters almost in every position.
They're bringing 6'5" as their 10th guy or something like that.
Right. Cool. So it's
beat us on a putback in any one,
So they punch us hard. I wasn't sure whether or not they were going to be able to sustain a 20-point quarter pace.
Right.
And I think that was a huge advantage to us in the second half, is we were used to up and down, up and down, up and down. I think the pace got away from them in the second quarter.
That's fair. I think you're right.
And once we got up and down, we were more comfortable getting up and down.
Right. Pop, did you have a question?
Oh, I had a comment. Fuchs in chat said, "We know we are the best team anyways. We don't care about the seed." That's another way to look at it.
Right.
Well, it'd be silly for him not to say it. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. Like if you have players who say, "Well, they're just better than us," well, stay home. There's one thing to be, especially if you're in your situation, Leor. Like, if your kids ain't saying that, I get mad when I have kids who are happy sitting on a bench. Now, I don't need you making a big deal about it, but I want you to compete. No one should say that. Why wouldn't? What you know what I mean, Leor? Like
the competition brings the best out of all of us, right? When it comes to basketball, you want competition.
Yeah,
you want to be able to compete.
Pop, before we let him go, did you say you had one question you want to ask? You don't have any questions you want to ask? Didn't you bother me about you want to ask Leor a question?
Yeah. We have some questions. Here, Oren, you want to take over here?
Yeah, sure. But I need Coach Schwartzberg's assurances. Interview questions.
It depends. I only have 20 seconds. I can hear my 3-year-old already.
Fair.
All of a sudden, them little kids are pounding on the door now.
Right. I gotta go. No, here I got a couple more minutes. So
we'll make it a little bit of a lightning round.
I'll do my best to avoid the questions.
I'll try to combine the questions too. How's that sound?
Yes.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on Johnny Dan and Noah Mayuhas being the first co-MVPs in tournament history? And how do you feel they'll both fit in at the college level?
I'm happy that they were both recognized. They're obviously, they're generational talent, right? They are, if you have one of a guy as talented as Noam or Johnny on your team, you're pretty confident. When you have two, you're even more confident. I'm glad that was recognized as a co-MVP. I think that statistically, both of them did stuff that's really good, not just scoring. I mean, I think Noam had like 12 assists in a championship game. So it's statistically they're there, and there's the charges that Noam took. There's this 42-point game that Johnny had. Johnny made 2 huge threes against Eula. Like they both were just, they were great. So I'm happy that was recognized. I wasn't, this guy scored more, or this guy assisted more, or this guy took more charges, but rather them both being great.
Lior, I love them both. I told you that before the tournament. I love them both. The one dude's motor is ridiculous, and the other dude's just mad talented.
Right.
And they seem to me to just be great kids. I enjoy talking to Noam a lot, and he's just a really he's got a chance to play for a while.
Huge ceiling.
Yeah.
Huge ceiling.
Yeah, but it really, honestly, and this, you got to get in the gym. Like, you can talk about all you want, how great you're going to be when you're 12th grade. If you don't get in the gym, by the time you're a sophomore in college, you're looking for something else to do.
Right. And to answer the question, I think they're going to be great college players.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that Noam is going to get much better. Right. I'm not sure he's done growing as well. I think the ceiling is very high. And I don't think that there's any person you can put on the floor that's going to discourage Johnny from playing basketball. Yeah. He went against Sierra Canyon and just went right at him. Yeah. And those are 6'11", 7 foot, All-Americans, and he didn't care. I think that they're both their games are not the same, and I think they're both going to translate out at the college level.
Yeah.
I think in different ways now,
yes.
And Johnny may have to fit into more of a role kind of situation than Noam, just simply because Noam could play a lead guard kind of spot, and he may be doing that at a 6'5" level. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or he's just gonna be a nice metric to have. So I agree 100%. I love them both. They just play so hard. I love that.
We have room for one final question. Well, one of them is a silly question. Who's the most handsome member of Coach Schwartzberg's staff? We know it's Coach Schwartzberg, so I'm going to pivot to the last question. What do you make of the return of Eula, and do you think you have your work cut out for you next year with Johnny and Noam out of the picture?
I think that what Moti has done at Eula is phenomenal. He took almost the same players from last year. They didn't have a great year. And last year I think they were like 4-19 last year. I said they are the best 4-19 team in the country. They were extremely talented, and he came in, he put his touch on it. They had a phenomenal year, and they're returning most of their guys as well. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the country next year when it comes to Jewish hoops. And they were this year, right? And coming into this, giving them they end up at 3rd seed. I think that they are going to be on everybody's radar. And anybody who plays them is going to have their work cut out for them, not just us, not just other LA teams. They're going to be one of the top teams to watch out for next year.
Yeah.
Do you play in the regular season?
What's that?
Do you play them in the regular season?
We typically do. This year we had a bad game of telephone, and then some rainouts, and then some scheduling issues.
You don't play indoors in California?
Baseball?
No, so that's how rare it rains here, that there's actually one week where a bunch of teams got their games rained out because of leaks in the roof. We had one the same night they had one. And it was across California. A lot of gyms were just shutting down because of the rain. So I guess, California.
Is there a rain tax in California?
No, we with all the tax we have, I don't know if we can take on a rain tax.
We have a rain tax. In Maryland, when it rains, we get taxed on it. I'm not playing around. This is a Martin O'Malley special. We can't thank him enough for being our governor.
And I thought we had it backwards, but no, we're scheduled to play them. We have a date.
Good.
I don't know if we're going to keep it right. We got to wait till all the school calendars come out and league calendars, but we're gonna play them next year.
Just FYI before you leave, is that typically on a Saturday night?
We like it Saturday night. Next year we do have it on a Saturday night. I think it's just something to do Motzei Shabbos, and we get a great crowd. It's not a school night necessarily. And all in all, it's, it's fun. It gets the community together and packs the gym and gives them a good environment that we don't always get.
I'm not locking it up on NFHS or whatever that is where you can't watch.
I think that this upcoming year we are hosting, so it will not be on NFHS.
So will it be on television somewhere where we can?
We're gonna try to maybe.
Are you going to limit?
We will try to figure out how to get Coach Katz a copy.
Please.
Live access to our.
That's what's up.
Don't worry, Poppers. I got you too.
That's what's up. Forget Poppers.
And me too. Me too.
I don't know if I can. Our bandwidth can take 3 people.
Coach. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, congrats on adding another Sarachek title to your belt. We're really appreciative of the time, and we look forward to seeing another season next year of Valley Tor Wolfpack basketball.
Awesome. Maybe I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, hold on.
You're becoming a regular.
Yeah, I'm happy about it.
Come on, see. Instead of just going to somewhere, I wanted you to walk your steps through for coaches who are paying attention to this, because I think the way you did it and your approach to everything from my standpoint was the actual way it should be done. It may be different than the way I do it, but the way it's kind of not, but the way you did it was the like meticulous, methodical, thought out, even in a situation where we covered stuff they didn't do. But the idea was, last question before you go, and then I'll say goodbye.
I heard the knock on the door, so I know it's my time.
Can you be too prepared, or you don't believe in something?
Yes.
You think so?
Again, look, as I said, in our shoot-arounds, we went over various things that we may see, and we never saw them for the most part.
But what I mean by that is, we didn't play well because we were too prepared. That's kind of like too much information bothers you, and not that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking.
Nah, it doesn't really bother me now.
Yeah, so no, that's what I mean. Like I like at some point you just put your stuff down and go, okay, there's nothing else I can do.
Right.
So if we can't win today, we just get beat.
Right.
All right, get the hell out of here. Leor, hey, thank you. Maybe we will see you in a couple of weeks.
All right, hopefully.
It'll be awesome. I appreciate it. That was awesome.
Take care, Leor. All the best.
All right, take care, guys.
Thanks so much. Have a good peace.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Before we move on to our next guest, I want to encourage our viewers to follow Yeshiva League Pass on Instagram and subscribe to the Yeshiva League Pass YouTube channel for great content. That's YLP YouTube. And I think we have our next guest in the wings, or will hopefully be coming on in the next few seconds.
Bring him on, Zach Katz.
Yeah, we're going to have to be more specific now because there are 2 Coach Katz's on the pod. Yeah, I got to get my lame dad joke out of the way by asking him if, there were times at the tournament where people were looking for Coach Katz and they accidentally addressed you, or vice versa.
Well, it didn't happen to me, so I'm sorry.
There's only one Coach Katz. And speaking of the devil, here he is, Coach Zach Katz.
Zach.
Tier 2 champion, Mizrachi Mayhem. Hey, Coach.
Thanks for coming. Zach, people don't know this, but I asked you to come on before the tournament, and you blew me off. So
we didn't want to give anything away.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, they see, Oren, this is when you have a young, insecure coach right here. Like, I'm afraid I'm going to say something out of turn, First, Zach, I want to tell you how happy I am for you and your assistant coach and for your program, because I kind of know what you were trying to do and how you were trying to do it. And as I told you on Thursday, but for a couple things, you may beat those guys. I mean, you prime them for Eula to beat them, in my opinion. In other words, you almost gave a little map. If you want to beat them, this is how you compete with them, right? In North Shore. And I thought you did a hell of a job. That was a great effort. And I think at some point you started to believe you were a 14. Does it make any sense?
Yeah, maybe we didn't finish. We went by 4 in the middle of the third quarter there. I think we got too excited with the lead. And then, they've been doing it all year. Like the film we've watched, they go on a little run and they just close out games. And we knew it was coming too. And it was unfortunate.
Okay, so you get there Wednesday, right? Do you go to shoot? Do you have a shoot around at all, or?
We got to the hotel Wednesday night at 9:30, 10. We just did some stretches and then got the kids to bed.
So did you Did you think about like getting a ballroom and say walking through something? I've done that in the past. I can't get a gym, so I'm gonna go in a ballroom and we're gonna walk through in our sweats or something like that.
Yeah, so we went to the ballroom. We just did our warm-ups, basically after being on the plane for an hour or so, being in the airport, just to get them loose. We prepared all week. What people didn't know is I think 10 out of 12 people on the team came down with a stomach bug Saturday night.
Nice.
We missed practice Sunday. We had 5 guys that practiced on Sunday. We had to cancel practice Monday. And then Tuesday we had like a walkthrough just because people are going to be able to play like we did on Thursday was awesome.
You're flying out on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So you play them Thursday, get beat, right? So they kick you down to the closet gym, right? You're playing in the closet. So who do you play? We played JEC. JEC in the closet. So the size couldn't have bothered you very much, right? Because you have size of your own.
Yeah, we have size in our team, yeah.
Were they surprised that you could shoot the ball like you do? Do you think you surprised them?
I don't know. They threw like 15 different defenses at us.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Which ones were you prepared for and which ones were you not?
We were prepared for all of them. Like when we watched the film, like we spoke to other people. They're like, they just throw different defenses at, just be ready for it. And then our guys did a good job adjusting and slowing down the pace.
Is it a situation of jack of all trades, master of none in that? You know what I mean? Did you find weakness in every one of them?
Yeah, I think that's why they probably kept on switching it. But I mean, we got off to a good start and we built ourselves a good lead. It's hard for them to come back.
What was like I'm playing at that time? What was the score? What'd you finish at? What would you finish at?
I think we won by 15 or 17. I don't remember the exact score. Everything
was it the same thing at halftime? Were you just drilling them at halftime?
Yeah, we won by 14. Poppers, let me know.
Right. Well, of course. Were you up 15 at the half or 20 at the half?
Yeah, we were up big at halftime, I believe.
And did you rest guys in the second half much, or?
All these games like become a blur right now, especially because this one wasn't filmed on Max Live. But I think we got some guys. I think everyone got minutes on Friday.
So you don't film. You don't have a manager film.
We have our film like on our GoPro, but because we were focusing on the next game right afterwards, we didn't watch this one.
Right. So you still have it, but you just haven't watched it.
Haven't watched it yet.
Okay. So the next day is TABC or no? It's Fast.
We play Fastman. Yeah.
Well, and even though you're in Chicago and they're in Cleveland, you don't see them, right?
No, we never played them before.
So this wasn't close.
Yeah, it was also we went up big early again. They had a great game on Friday, so we were a little bit making sure we closing the covering 32. We put Fry on him. We shut him down pretty well, and then we just did our thing on offense, and we were hitting. And when we're hitting, it's hard to stop.
I would think that. Who in particular? 24.
Yeah, Adi had a good game. Nate had a bounce. Jacobs had a bounce back game that night.
Right? Did he not play well the day before?
He didn't play well on Thursday. He scored a handful of points, but his shot wasn't falling like it usually does.
Right. Okay, so you beat them, and then and Sunday you get TABC. Like, who do you get on? Is that Saturday night?
That's Saturday night. Then we played TABC on Sunday.
Played TABC on Sunday. That was like a beatdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good. They beat us last year, so it was nice to get them again.
I'm saying, but you were like drilling them at halftime, right?
We're drilling them at halftime of the third quarter, which we're usually struggling. The first 4 minutes, we always say we got to win the first 4 minutes. I think it was like 25-2 run. It was something crazy that third quarter.
That you had or they had?
That we had.
Wow. Okay, so game's basically over, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Adi went Sharvie 24 went 5 for 5 that game from 3.
Right.
He was good.
Right. And then you play Sunday.
Monday. Yeah, Monday against Leor.
And I'm traveling and I'm seeing the scores like 22-5 or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we had a good first quarter. We built on the momentum. We were up big at halftime, and they threw the press at us. We were having some struggle in the third quarter there. We let our guard down a little bit. They came back. I think they brought it within maybe even 9 or something. But then we pulled away.
But you don't think like at any point you're going like, okay, we're not really in trouble here.
So when they got within like the 11 to 10 range, I got a little nervous. I mean, we were up big. But.
Right. So what are you are you not going to press them or anything like that? You just don't do that, right?
No, we play our defense. It's been working all season.
But they dribble quite a bit, so they had to be playing right into the teeth of what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, they weren't hitting early on. They weren't hitting their threes, which helped us go on the 25-2 run, whatever it was in the first quarter.
Right.
We were hitting our shots, and they weren't driving. They weren't attacking the hole. I mean, we're bigger than them. Like,
so
size all around.
Because of your size, they kind of stayed away from penetration.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. They couldn't get inside. We had a number of blocks down low. It's the opposite, like we experience in Cleveland. Like we're usually the smaller team getting blocked.
Right.
Right. Now we're the bigger team.
Is it? So tell me, is there any reason to think if you catch a couple breaks on Thursday that you may not be playing on Monday in that same game, like in the championship game that SAR is playing in?
It would have been a hard stretch to get there. I would have liked our chance. I would have liked to have that experience. I'd like to have that challenge, but we didn't get it.
Right. It's almost like we have to come to New York to play Berman.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'd rather, are you trying to stay away from either of us because you played us already and you want to see somebody else, or you don't care either way?
No, we were happy you're on the other side of the bracket.
The funny thing was, we were happy you were on the other side of the bracket. The problem was they were also on our side. Yeah. So, but did the game that we played earlier, a couple weeks earlier, help you? You think?
Yeah, I think especially going down there, we were very confident in what we've done in Cleveland and just basically put us back in our place. Like we can't just walk into a gym and expect to win. And we have to go back to the gym, get working, and then it really helped to motivate them for Sarachek. So
it was a great trip.
Yes. Good time too, like before Sarachek.
I think people don't get it. They think if you go and you lose, well, you lost. No, it doesn't work that way. Did we get better? You know what I mean? And I thought you got better that weekend.
Yeah, Berman kicked our teeth in also. And,
what's that?
Berman also kicked our teeth in Saturday night.
Yeah, but I think the back-to-back of it was helpful because you have to back-to-back it. In other words, Berman doesn't get a back-to-back that weekend. You do, though, and you play Sunday, too, so you get 3 days in a row. I mean, there's nothing better to prepare you for playing 3 days in a row than actually playing 3 days in a row.
Yeah, that was our goal going in, getting as many games as possible in a short spread just to get us ready.
Terrific job, Zach. I want to have you on just to kind of acknowledge, I know what you guys are trying to do for a year already. And I love that you did it. And how long is your rebuild now? Ephraim graduates, but Nate stays, right?
Yeah, Nate's still here.
You lose the old kid. You lose Ephraim.
We lose 4 out of 5 starters.
How bad is this rebuild?
We're confident in the JV guys coming up.
Okay, nice textbook answer. But how hard is the? I mean, you have to say that. But I'm saying, how hard is the rebuild? What's the difference between your team this year and the team you anticipate of having next year? You have a size.
The size is going to be the biggest difference. Yeah, we go from having 4 stars over 6 feet. Nate might be 6 feet. Otherwise,
give somebody some idea of how many kids you have coming to tryouts and how many kids are in your school and in your program.
Yeah, I think there's 40 boys in the whole high school. 25 come out to try out. 12 make varsity. 13 make JV. Right.
I mean, welcome to small town life.
Yeah.
That's why what you did here was really great. And it was 4 years in the making. Everybody thinks it's 1 year in the making. It's 4 years in the making. And you came 2 years ago? How many years ago did you start coaching them?
It's my second year as varsity, but I was there, most of their JV coaches in 9th grade. So I started with them in 9th grade. They were off 10th grade.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then you get them for the next 2 years. So you're kind of with them all through. So that's a 4-year in the making thing. That's pretty cool. And I'm just really proud of you guys. I thought you did a great job. Do you guys have anything, Oren?
Yeah, well, first off, this is quite a treat for us, seeing old school Coach Katz with new school Coach Katz. And the fact that you guys, I'm not so sure how much our viewers really know, but you guys had a dogfight preceding Sarachek. In fact, one of the best high school games I saw throughout the year, no joke. So it's nice, you battling it out and now seeing you
mean the two of us, you're saying?
Correct.
Yes.
That game that took place in Baltimore, that was quite a thriller. Zach, I think it's safe to say, I think you're one of the younger coaches, or at least you were in this tournament. Do you think your age impacts your relationship with players positively, negatively, both? Would love your take on that.
Yeah, I haven't put much thought to that. I went to Mizrachi growing up, so I think that might help a little bit. I know the culture there. I know what the kids go through on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, other than that, it's probably helpful that I'm closer to their age than most coaches are. But.
Right, and I assume you were a member of the team while you were there as a student.
Yeah.
Right, so you could speak to your experiences for sure. Were there seniors on the team who were benched in favor of someone like Nate Jacobs?
I think what was nice about this team, everyone had the same end goal in mind. They would do whatever is best for the team. Usually Brennis starts for us. He didn't start at the North Shore game just because the size matched up better starting Gecko. And he was like, yeah, whatever it takes to win. I'm all in. He came off the bench, brought the energy, hit a few threes in the beginning of the North Shore game. Yeah, they weren't. Thankfully, there was no drama on the team. Everyone was it was really fun to coach them. It was great.
So going back to what Coach said, it's very common for small community schools to play other small community schools within their state. So I'm sure you guys, every once in a while play a school like Columbus, but you guys decided to do a Maryland trip. Would love to hear about that experience. How did you get the ball rolling, and what was senior Coach Katz involved in those discussions at all?
Yeah. So our principal, Rabbi Joel, went to Berman for high school. So we were talking about how we could do maybe a Bermanite of Crown, Berman, Makor Chaim, whatever the case may be. And no one wanted to come to us. So I'm like, we got to prepare for Sarachek. Let's go down to them. So I reached out to Coach Katz. I told him, hey, we're coming down for a week, and would you play us? He's like, of course. So we played him Friday. We played Berman Saturday night. And then we got a scrimmage against JDS's juniors on Sunday.
Right. And you think that was a helping hand or come tournament time? You think you still win tier 2 without having that weekend?
You never know. If we didn't do it, but I think it was helpful. It's also because our season ended 3 weeks earlier. So we have a very long break between the end of our season and then when Sarachek comes around. So just to give something for us to prepare for instead of just waiting around for 5 weeks.
Yeah. Sort of why we wanted to do it too, because we don't really have, I scheduled some things in between that, but that break that out-of-town teams have before they go is really long. And I don't think people, including California, has the same thing. I don't think people in New York understand the length of that break while they're still playing. We got to find somebody to play because everybody's into baseball or lacrosse or something like that, at least over here. So, Zach, you guys good?
I actually have one more question, but Zach, if you have the time, of course. 4 out of your 5 games were against the Yeshiva League teams. Do I have that right?
Yeah, we were happy about that. Showing that we could play with them.
Yeah. So did that get your guys wondering, thinking, how would we compete if we played in the Yeshiva League this past year? Or not really?
Not really. We lost to North Shore. That was the one we had to win. We couldn't do that one. But yeah, I think we didn't know how good we were, going against only local teams and then playing with the Makor Chaim and Berman, just to really tell where are we compared to these guys. We watched the film and we could guess how good we are, but actually going up against them to see what we could do against them was pretty neat.
Yeah. I'm good on my end. How about you, Pop?
Pop got a question, right, Pop?
Yeah, I got one question. I'm interested to hear your thoughts because we see a lot of, especially younger coaches nowadays, they come in, it's on the college level, but I'm interested to see how it applies here. And the first thing they're always talking about is building a culture, but they're all focused on the leadership side of things. And there seems to be less of a focus out of the gates on the X's and O's side of things. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on balancing those two, because even though you have a couple of star players, you played really well as a team. So obviously you've done well culturally when it comes to the team. Do you think one is more important than the other? And do you think the two kind of go together if you have a proper style of play?
Yeah, I think they have to talk with each other, right? If you could have the best X's and O's, but if the guys don't listen to you or they don't get along with each other, it's not going to do anything. And then vice versa, right? If you have guys that are super talented, but they're not disciplined, it's not going to look nice on the court either. So finding the proper balance, I think, is important. And then, like I said, these guys were a great group of guys to continue the culture we started building last year and just really try and change the shift of where we're trying to go here. And it was fun.
Yeah. Coach Katz, thank you so much for your time. Congrats on the Tier 2 title. They're not related, but they love each other anyway.
Thanks for having me.
Zach, thanks for coming. I was just thinking that your efforts last year, starting off in that tier and playing in that tier. I mean, actually, I think you played Katz in the first round. Did you beat them?
No, we played TABC. They got us. So
right.
It's nice to get back.
But then you played Katz. Didn't you play Katz at some point?
We played Mimo. We played Mimo the second game. We lost to Fresh.
Right. So, but that experience has to help you, right?
Yeah, I think they still felt that going into the biggest tier tournament.
That what now?
I remember the feeling after that game against Fresh. We blew like 11-point lead Saturday night.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. But I get it. That like to me, there has to be it's a massive value what that experience does for you. Zach, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you coming on. Congratulations. I'm really happy. And I'm happy for you and I'm happy for your guys. And please tell them I send my best.
I will do. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep, have a great case on that.
All right. Well, that does it for our guests, but we still have plenty of show to go because you know why? We're all we got.
We're all we need.
Cyclones on 3.
Hold on now. Do we have other questions? I'm
going to get to them, Coach. Just want to remind our viewers once again, please subscribe, please like us, do everything you can to keep up to date with us. Coach, there were some questions that were asked. I'm not so sure you're going to answer them though, but I'll take a whack at it anyway.
I probably won't, but go ahead.
No, because I know you don't like to single out certain players because you're afraid you might leave some out, but the viewers want to know in your eyes.
I'm in a really bad mood since last Thursday. So whatever you got going on, let's hear it.
All right.
Like surprise you. Yeah.
Best Sarachek team ever.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know enough about it. I think the best Sarachek game ever was our game with Valley Torah at Talmudical Academy about 23 years ago.
Sure.
Ended up 90-88. I personally don't think Tamir played very well that day, even though he had 53 points. John Bandler obviously vehemently disagrees with me, but just too many turnovers, and he didn't have a lot of help, but we got to play a little better. Missed a bunny at the rim early in the game. He did hit 3 buzzer beaters that night, so that was kind of cool. But best Sarachek team ever. I'm not sure how you could discount Gabriel's undefeated team.
Right.
Because they didn't lose all year. It wasn't like they went to Satrin and lost the game.
And they had an amazing play-by-play guy for that championship game.
Would that have been you, Oren?
Yeah, alongside Avi Matanki. Shout out if you're listening.
So I think they'd have to be in the top of that group. But it's hard to say because, Dove Wiener's team was pretty good in the mid-90s. Was that late 90s, mid-90s? I don't know. Ryan's team was pretty good. They just didn't win. there was a Frisch team that was pretty good. Not the sit on the ball for 5-minute team, but I don't know.
I think you can abstain. I think you can abstain.
I don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
I'm way too, what's the word? I'm way too picky to actually have a favorite.
And knowing you so well, I don't think you're going to answer this question either. All-time Jewish high school starting five. So you want to recuse two there?
I definitely won't answer the question, but I will say that all-time Jewish high school starting five. How far back can I go? A.B. Dweck would have to be one of them. I don't know if anybody knows who he is, but he was just ridiculous.
Magan, Flatbush?
He played at, what was Magan's name before Magan, David? Sephardic, I think it was called.
Uh-huh.
Morris Dweck coached him. I actually saw him live in 80. I remember the year, maybe 81. AB was one of them. AB was really good, long, athletic. I even saw him as an adult. He was long and athletic. And wasn't a great shooter, but everything, he could rebound, he could run the floor, he defended you like a son of a bitch. We're not supposed to say that.
It's all right, we're in the nightcap now.
Tamir's the best Jewish religious player I've ever seen or been around. Daniel Aaron was pretty good. Eli Hammy. I don't know if there's five. There's probably more than five. Eli Hammy.
It looks like someone chimed in that the team were the Sephardic Sonics.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sephardic. Shut up. I'm talking to my Alexa, the only woman that gives me lip. Some more. I just don't know enough about that league. Alan Sapinen was a pretty good player. I don't know.
Yeah, look, there's no right or wrong.
Tamir's the best. AB's pretty good. Tamir's the best player I ever saw in Jewish basketball. A couple of these kids now, look, they're good. It's just kind of like a different level. You know what I mean? Like Noam and Johnny are really good. It's just a different level.
It's also a different game, frankly, no?
Yeah, it's a different game, but you got to understand, one of the things Marty Mizell's, I hope we get him on, maybe call him 08 or something, but he was telling me how they were triangling to Tamir. He just pulled from half court.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it's the same game, ridiculous shooting range and stuff like that. But when AB was playing, it's a little different game. When Alan Sapinen was playing, a little different game. In the last 25 years, I'm sure I'm missing guys. Dov Wiener was a really good player. Just don't know if he'd be in the top five.
Richard Lewis was a good player, right?
Richard Lewis was a good player, but again, I'm not sure he's in the top five. Rabald was a pretty good player. I don't think he's in the top five. There's some great kids in California. I'm biased towards Tamir, but I think it's a hard argument to Ryan, obviously. It's a hard argument to make that there's better players than the two of those guys.
Yeah. So we actually have two more questions. One of them is actually a very interesting one. So I want to, Pop, you want to take that one? You want to take the mantle there?
Yeah, we got a question from Danny Mizrachi, who was the one who was trying.
I'm not going to answer it.
Yeah, you'll like it. He's
a moron.
He said, "Is it worth celebrating a Tier 2 championship when in reality it's
I knew that was coming. What's the rest of the question? Is it worth the 2-tier championship with what?
When in reality it's 9th place."
I think it depends on what type of program you are, right, Coach?
If you're Cleveland and you got 40 boys in your school, you got to run with that.
Right. That's why I think DRS playing in the final for them, it was still they were playing for it, but it was a step down.
If your Yeshiva League team would graduate 180 people, that's nothing to be proud of. Look, if you get there and you get there and you do it, good for you. You take it and you would. I mean, it depends. Like in a program like ours, where we haven't won anything. Come on, I think it's all relative to who you are. Me personally, I was going to this tournament to win the whole thing. So, it would have been good for our kids had we done it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think our kids were so locked into the SAR.
Did they feel any sense of consolation, though, that they defeated the Tier 2 champion?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, no. Okay, it was never we didn't. No,
or if anything, it made them feel like they missed out on something.
Yeah, it was more missed opportunity. Yeah, I think that's really what it is. We're this close with SAR, and then we already beat Fuchs, albeit, in our home floor. But it's really more missed opportunity. I think that's a lesson learned here.
Right.
And, it's a life lesson that I hope they take with them.
Yeah.
So the answer to the question is it really does depend on who you are and what you're trying. Like we've done, we're 4 years old. Had we done it, it would have been something I think to celebrate, but it wouldn't have been what we went there to do.
Yeah.
The fact is, we didn't do it. You got to be able to score a point on Sunday if you want to win.
Right.
So we just weren't any good.
Yeah.
I think we're too invested in that. When you look back on it, we put our eggs in the basket we wanted to put it in, and anything after that was almost irrelevant.
Yeah. That's
not excuse making. Those are facts.
No, it's factual. It's certainly factual. Yeah.
Was there another question from somebody who actually has a brain?
Well, it's more of a topic of discussion, but I think something that a lot of people found interesting throughout the weekend was YU Max player Zevi Sammet at his locker, because obviously visiting players had the opportunity to use the YU Max locker room, and Zevi apparently left inspirational messages for the Sarachek players. And I think all the years of Sarachek, obviously we've seen YU players been gracious and been welcoming to the high school players, but I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. So we'll love your opinion there if you have one.
Zevi never played in this tournament.
I know.
It's one of his regrets as a player.
I'm sure.
That's why he's more sensitive to it, and he's an outstanding person. That's how his brain works. That's how he thinks. So, none of that surprises me. All you have to do is know Zevi.
Right. I've known him longer than you, so for sure.
And once you know him, you realize that none of that is surprising.
Yeah, it's not often I can say I know someone longer than you because you know everyone.
Well, that's only because I'm old, Laura. That's only because I'm old. We're gonna have another guest tonight, but the NABC convention is tonight, so some guys are on the board of the NABC, and
right. So,
God willing, future episode.
Do we want to divulge the name, or we'll wait till the next show?
No, there's no reason to. It's not.
Surprise. Okay. I actually remember I asked you that question about, players under the radar at Sarachek, and I brought up the Effie example. Let me try to rephrase the question, but it's very similar in a sense. Do you ever watch a player who's not talented enough to play for YU, but he has such a high IQ that you would still want him to have a role within the program?
I mean, there are kids like that you recruit and want. Ultimately, it's not my decision, first of all. But second of all, and that question really should go to Ellie or Elliot. But, there are kids with great IQs who you just kind of go, boy, I wish he could blank, There are a couple guys on our roster that in high school, we kind of watched them and went, boy, that's a pretty smart player, Didn't turn out that way in college necessarily, but the transition from high school to college is so difficult. I don't think anybody really gets it until you do it. it's, people think it's this easy next step. It's a whole nother level. It really is. It's really difficult. And I don't think people get it. It takes so much work. Like, say you're a senior now, the amount of work you have to do now to prepare yourself. If you're going to go to Israel, you have like basically 18 months. It's so much work. You can't even wrap your head around it. And by the time that's going to come so quick that you're going to feel when you finally get there that you didn't do enough.
Yeah.
So are there kids? I mean, you keep them around for practice, practice players, and then see if they grow. And a lot of guys are not willing to take on that role because nowadays everybody wants superstar treatment without superstar effort. But there are some kids who just want to be part of a program like that. And usually it's those high IQ kids. So you take them because they're great around your program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that sort of where I go with that. Yeah, that's where I go with that.
No, it's a fine way to close. So I want to be clear to our viewers before we close. The basketball season might be over, but the Harold Katz podcast is all year round. We're not going anywhere. We do want to wish our viewers a Chag Kasher Sameach, have a great Passover. Don't forget to subscribe to Yeshiva League Pass. Like their stuff and everything. We're going to have some more episodes in the coming weeks. If we have Coach's blessing, for example, I'd love to have someone like John on the show if he'd be up to it.
Like who?
What was that, Coach?
Like who? Didn't hear that. Who was it?
Oh, John Rosen. Would love to have someone like him on.
You would have my blessing, but John doesn't want to do stuff like that. He's not.
No? Got it.
I mean, John's, John never thought he'd have an opportunity to play college basketball. So the fact that that's coming to him is a
right.
It's a testament to him because he spent his time in the gym getting better, especially coming off injury like he's been doing. He put on a shooting clinic the tournament hasn't really seen in a while, if ever. And but he doesn't like talking in public like that. He's just a really quiet.
Yeah. Reminds me of Zevi, actually. Zevi doesn't like that stuff.
Yeah, John, well, I brought it up to him today because you guys requested it, and John, somebody else probably.
All right. We love him anyway.
I think we could reach out to some other kids. I think it'd be cool to have them on. But it's a sort of like, which is why I went through some stuff with coaches that you wouldn't normally hear when they get interviewed, just because I wanted people to kind of see from a coaching perspective all that's involved. I mean, I think people think, it's just roll the ball out. You got your X. Now, it was interesting when Leor said he made no adjustments at halftime that day.
Yeah.
Everybody always thinks that. They think that about Elliot all the time, and all Elliot says is, we just said go run our stuff.
No, I was just about to say, that's what you do.
Yeah, let's just, we have to fix this, and this. Well, let's fix it, and we'll be fine. But we can't just knock around here. We got to get out and do the job. So I think there's...
Right. Let's not change who we are. Let's not change who we are and adjust. Let's just keep being who we are.
Right. I think there's a part of you that I think when you're younger as a coach, you think you got to come up with like 1,000 things at halftime.
Yeah.
And as you have more experience, you realize that pretty much, it's just, let's go do what we do. We're not doing that right now. Mm-hmm. It's almost like when SAR hits that shot before the half, it's funny, that girl's going to interview the coach who's winning at halftime, and she's standing right next to me. And I'm like looking at her, and then they hit the shot, and she runs over, finds Rafi. So like, hey, thanks, no thanks, But the other thing was, if he doesn't hit that shot, or we actually play that the right way, and and jab at the ball instead of jump to the ball, and contest a shot. Maybe you go in a locker room and say, hey, just win the half, win the game, instead of being down by a point. Like, you pretty much had control the whole first half and you're going in losing.
Yeah.
So and I think it took us a minute to get out of that. And John kind of got us out of it a little bit. And, maybe that changes things if you don't give up that bucket. You could that's the message at halftime. We haven't played very well in the second quarter here, and we're still in the lead. To win the half, win the game. That's all you got to do. And it's kind of simpler when you compartmentalize it. But people think coaches come up with these grand schemes, and they really don't. Yeah. Most good coaches just say, hey, let's just go out and do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to kind of hear Lior and Zach's perspective on how they approached each thing, And I'm hoping it gave people listening the insight to actually what goes on instead of what fans think goes on.
Right.
So, like,
no, we just got a window into the championship game right there, which was great.
Yeah, trying to be a little different on this podcast. To kind of, there's a lot of things people think happen that don't really happen, and there's a lot of things people have no idea happens that always happens. So, it's great to get inside the mind of a coach and hear what he's thinking, and that's kind of what I try to do here with opportunity of just kind of upper level kind of, and I'm glad people tune in for it. I hope, now that we're on our own, we've got to kind of generate our own brand here a little bit. So I hope we get support from people listening and try to tweet it out or Instagram it out or whatever the hell they do with this social media, which I don't do. So, but, I do, again, want to thank Bob Bottom for hosting us for as long as they did. And I think you have to be gracious and grateful for opportunity. And when I was approached about it, I didn't know it was going to be on the Bob Bottom network, but whatever, not a big deal. So just to try to get it a little independent here, and I'm still willing to do things with them. It's not a problem, but I think we just needed our own autonomy and try to build our own thing here. And if people want to partner with us, that's simulcast it or whatever. I'm more than glad to do it. But hopefully we'll be able to open phone lines so some of these people who are watching can actually call in and listen to more nonsense straight up from me.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of what we're trying to do here, that sort of a coaching thing is really what I think it's interesting to hear other guys' thoughts on it. That's pretty cool.
Couldn't ask for a better way to close out episode 11. Thank you so much as always, Coach. Happy Passover to all our viewers.
Happy Passover. I think we're going to try to do this during Chol Moed, maybe. Is that
God willing. Not really yeah.
There's only a couple of days, right? Like Monday or Tuesday or whatever. So we could try to do it. Depends how much sleep I get because I'm still really tired. Baruch Hashem, it's Shabbos tomorrow.
All we're doing is we're competing with Six Flags, right? That's it. That's our only competition.
Yeah, screw them. They can't hold a candle. Screw Six Flags. Who are they? All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And God willing, we'll see you next week.